Okay, I think that was about 4 minutes. Welcome, everybody, to the 2023 Esto Perpetua Awards, hosted by the Idaho State Historical Society here at the beautiful Idaho State Museum. It's so nice to see all of your smiling faces here tonight. And you know, this event is named after the state motto, which is Esto Perpetua, of course. Now, I know you're all historians, but you know, the story of the state motto is actually a little bit murkier than what people realize, and it's kind of tied to this event. Now, this is my 14th straight year emceeing this event. It's always a pleasure. I actually wasn't going for cheap applause there, but thank you very much. But after a couple of years of emceeing it, they were all trying to decide who should host this event going forward. And so they had that discussion, and right away, Jan Gallimore jumps up and says, Doug should host it forever. Then Cherie Buckner-Webb jumps up and says, let it be perpetual. And then Governor Otter says, or someone else jumps up and says, Esto Perpetua. I think that was David Leroy, because he's known for talking in Latin sometimes, or at least stuff I can't understand. But he says Esto Perpetua, and Governor Otter at the time says, yes, that's perfect, that is so cool, that should be our state motto. And someone else says, what? Doug should host it forever is gonna be our state motto? And he said, no, Esto Perpetua, of course. Now, if you think that that is not the truth, you can check with Hannah Lori Hine, the state historian, she knows it. But just through a tragedy of Idaho history, Governor Little's dog actually ate the minutes from that meeting, so there's no technical proof that that actually happened. But you can trust me because I'm on the news. Right? But again, it is such a pleasure all these years to be doing this once again, and now I'm actually way up above the audience this year for the first time. This is awesome with the stage and everything. This event just grows and gets better every year. At this time, I would like to introduce two pivotal people in this whole process, and they were going to come up to verify my story about the name of the state motto. First of all, Bill Battici is the chair of the Idaho State Historical Society Board of Trustees and representative of Judicial District 3, which represents Adams, Washington, Payette, Gem, Canyon, and Owyhee County. And also joining him on the stage right now is our wonderful director, Janet Gallimore, the executive director of the Idaho State Historical Society and State Historic Preservation Officer.
Thank you, Doug. Sure. Well, I'd like to welcome everybody on behalf of the Board of Trustees for coming tonight to the 24th Esto Perpetua Awards. And we'd also like to make a special welcome to our First Lady, Teresa Little, for joining us tonight. Great to have her here. Thank you. So I'd like to recognize our Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees are appointed by the governor, and their job is to go out, of course, and promote the agency's services to our communities and the education and preservation of history. And that's a vital link back to our state. And so with that, I'd like to introduce, and would you stand up when I call your name? So we'll start out with Don Pishner from Coeur d'Alene. And we have Dr. Amy Canfield from Lewiston. And Marianne Arnold of Boise. Marianne. We have Paul Smith of Twin Falls. And Jim Johnson of Pocatello. And Dr. Cheryl O'Brien from Idaho Falls. I'd like to also recognize our Foundation for Our History. Our Foundation Board members are here tonight, and I'm not going to list them out, but I would just like everybody on the Foundation Board just to stand up so you can be recognized. Our Foundation members are the ones that support the Idaho State Historical Society, and they do our fundraising and our promotions, and without them, we would really not be what we are today. They helped do the campaign for this building, this facility, our statues. It's just an amazing group of people that are very passionate about history and the preservation of that history. And they give a lot of dedication and dedicated time, dedication to do that task. And they don't charge a thing for it. So the foundation is just excellent, and we would really not be what we are without them. So thank you, Foundation. So with that, we have a wonderful evening ahead of us tonight, recognizing our 2023 awardees and all of those that also participate and support history and the preservation of history and the education of history. And without all of you supporting and the volunteers doing that work again, our history would not be preserved, and we couldn't give it to our future generations to keep our identity. So with that, I'm going to introduce our director, Jan Gallimore, the director of our Idaho State Historical Society, and our State Historic Preservation Officer.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's so great to see everybody here tonight. Special thanks to Teresa for joining us. Also want to thank Debbie Critchfield, our Superintendent of Public Instruction, and Mayor Joan Hawkins from the City of Malad, and many distinguished scholars from across Idaho colleges and universities, and Senator Shree Buckner-Webb. Thank you all for joining us, and Shree, I love you. That wasn't really on my script, but I had to say it. So thank you all for being here. It's with honor that I stand before you to commence this iconic event, the Esto Perpetua Award Ceremony. Many of you have been coming to this for years, and we thank you. And as we embark, I'd like to think about us celebrating all of the professional achievements and contributions of those of you who are in the audience tonight, and people who have, for the last 24 years, done amazing work across our state, dedicating time and effort and careers to unearthing the amazing stories of our state, preserving our artifacts, and safeguarding our rich tapestry of Idaho's history. We could not do that without this whole family. And in addition to all of our awardees tonight, there are many organizations represented in this audience who are doing this work every day as well. I think you'd all agree that the State Historical Society stands as a beacon of knowledge, preserving our heritage and reminding us of the struggles and triumphs and invaluable lessons of the past, those who came before us, and how that shapes the Idaho that we know today. And tonight we recognize and applaud ardent researchers, passionate curators, devoted archivists, and steadfast preservationists. Their unwavering commitment to our craft really helps build the history of their communities and Idaho, and that serves as a bridge that connects the past to the present and also helps us think about how do we use that information to inform a better future for all of us. Each recipient tonight really embodies the spirit of curiosity and unyielding dedication to historical accuracy. Their work really encapsulates the essential qualities of our mission to make sure, number one, history is preserved, that it is documented, and that it is shared, but probably most importantly, it's used for the benefit of all Idahoans, from school children to the highest echelons of our government. So I'd invite us to reflect tonight on the significance of history, the foundation of our communities, the foundation upon which we all stand, and the compass that guides us as we move forward. And it's within that depth of the past that we find wisdom and inspiration and a deep understanding of our shared humanity. Our program, in its 24th year, is really celebrating the accomplishments of all of those in the audience tonight who are awardees, and it's also a testimony to our collective responsibility. And it serves as a reminder that we all have a responsibility to work together to preserve our history. It's a collaborative journey. It's not a single enterprise. It takes us all, and we're very grateful. And in that spirit of admiration, I invite us to share a group round of applause for all of this year's awardees for their time and effort to illuminate the past and unravel the stories that have shaped them, themselves, and shaped their communities. So congratulations, everyone. So with much gratitude and respect for those who paved the way so that we could all be here today, we're really delighted to start this evening. Special thanks to our ISHS staff and especially Tricia Hoffman for the remarkable, amazing program tonight. Special thanks to the Foundation for Idaho History for being a part sponsor. And in your programs, you will have other very gracious partners, so please do thank them throughout the night. And now it's my great privilege to pass the program back to my dear friend and colleague, Doug Petkesh, news anchor for KTVB. The 2023 Northwest Regional Emmy Awards took place this past Saturday, June 3rd, and KTVB was nominated for 9 Emmys in 8 categories. So congratulations, Doug. We're very proud that Doug and his KTVB colleagues really garnered 2 Emmys, one for the Best Evening Newscast for the News at 10, and Bree Eggers for Best Weather Anchor. So we're super proud of KTVB. And it bears repeating that Doug has emceed our Esto Awards program for 14 years, and it will be going on forever because that's the way we roll. It's a little like Hotel California. And thank you. You can never leave. That's right. And thank you so much for your service to our state and your devotion to our history and for all that you have done to support Esto Perpetua. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it's time for awards. This is going to work pretty smoothly, as usual, as we do it every year. I'll call up the trustee from the districts in order. They'll come up here, and then I'll introduce the winners from each district. Those winners will then be able to come up, receive their award, and then give a 2-3 minute speech. So that you could do 2 to 3 minutes, or you can ignore the hyphen and do 23 minutes. Tricia might have a problem with that, but you can take up that with her. So we're going to start with District 1, and first of all, I'd like to call up Don Pishner from Coeur d'Alene. He represents District 1, which is Boundary, Bonner, Kootenai, Benewah, and Shoshone counties.
How are you? Thanks for the help.
Okay. There's yours right there. Our first recipient of a 2023 Esto Perpetua Award is Kimberly Rice Brown from Post Falls, nominated by Joe Butler. Kimberly's dedicated 30-plus years to preserving and promoting her community's rich history. Involvement extends beyond the local level. She's an active member of the Daughters of the American Revolution, Farragut chapter, championing the preservation of our nation's history. Served on Kootenai County's Historical Preservation Committee. 6 buildings and landmarks in Post Falls have been rightfully recognized and listed on the National Historic Register. This serves as a testament to Kim's unwavering commitment to her community's past. She's an instrumental liaison to the Coeur d'Alene tribe, fostering collaboration and understanding between the community and the tribe, ensuring that their rich cultural heritage is respected and celebrated. And Kim is currently spearheading efforts to have the Chapin Building, formerly a pharmacy and now home to the Post Falls Museum, dedicated as an historic landmark. Ladies and gentlemen, our first recipient tonight, Kimberly Rice Brown, Post Falls.
Thank you, Mr. MC. To the First Lady, a little story about Janet Gilmore. A few years ago when she first became director, she came up to the Panhandle, which is where we all live, that way northernmost part of Idaho. And she said, what can we do for you around the state of, up here, where it's so far for our people to travel? And I said, well, you can be working, maybe set up some little grants. And by golly, Janet came back to Boise. She's a woman of her word. She worked with, obviously, the foundation. She has a wonderful staff. They can be reached by email, phone, and believe me, in the little town of Post Falls where I live, people don't know where it's at, but it started out as a wee little town located between Spokane, Washington, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. 100 years ago, it had 700 people. Today, it has grown 63 times that amount. It's up to 44,000 people. And we have people from all over the United States that come into Little Post Falls and say, where is your ghost town? Where is the old town? Well, I will say that, history is one of those things that you're building on. And we are building chapter by chapter. They think it doesn't matter, but it will. So as far as old buildings, we are working on a 100-year-old building. And we have, as everyone mentioned, have worked with the State Historic Preservation Office, but we have all kinds of things listed. So if you don't find old buildings, we have old bridges, we have old churches, we have old schools, and we have just a variety. I call it the flower approach to historic preservation. I have some people, for a while my table back there was completely empty, and I really was upset because I thought, golly, none of our folks could drive all the way from Post Falls up here. And I told them that I would thank them in front of you because they are volunteers like I am. Joe Butler and Pam Rodkey wrote letters on my behalf. They are with the Post Falls Historical Society. Carrie Thorison is a Post Falls City Council person, and she works for Hagedon, the Coeur d'Alene Press. Michelle Fansler and Catherine McClintock, they are hardworking ladies, daughters of the American Revolution. One is a state regent. Another, Deb Mitchell, is an archivist, a volunteer archivist at the Museum of North Idaho. Courtney Beebe, another volunteer, a lawyer, is chair of the Kootenai County Historic Preservation Commission. And Blythe Templin, her father and her mother were charter members of the Post Falls Historical Society, working with Keith Peterson and Governor Cecil Andrus to help out a little town like Post Falls set up their own historical society. So when you're thinking of Idaho, and we're very blessed with everything that goes on down here at the Idaho Historical Society, because I've enjoyed this past year working with, Lynn Moore has been a godsend. But through the years, there are so many people, some of them are retired, but the efforts of the Idaho Historical Society, your foundation, always, if you are in the far north and you leave at 4 o'clock in the morning, you've got to know that we are very appreciative of all that goes on down here. Thank you for sharing your professionalism and your funding, which we try to match as much as possible. But I just want to thank you. I'm humbled to be in the company of the other recipients. I'm glad I was first, so I can get this over with. But I can hardly wait to hear their stories. But I just want to thank you, and I do want to thank my husband in the back. He's put up with me for 50 years and got me up at 4 o'clock this morning. So we are so tickled to be here. Thank you so much.
Also from District 1. So Don, you have to stay up here, right?
Thanks for that.
How many years you been doing this?
Well, I wasn't going to leave.
Okay.
But thanks for allowing me to stay up here because the steps.
I hear you. Our next recipient of a 2023 Esto Perpetua Award is Richard Caron of Wallace, nominated by James C. Richard served as a board member of both the Northern Pacific Depot Museum and the Wallace Mining Museum for 30-plus years, assisting with fundraising, preservation of local artifacts, and creating displays to tell Wallace's story. In the late 1980s, he was part owner of an 1890 three-story building in which he worked to restore and preserve its historic integrity, participating in saving Wallace's railroad depot from destruction, and helped to list the entire town on the National Register of Historic Places. Also assisted in the reconstruction of the Pulaski Trail and opening of the Taft Tunnel and its conversions to a Rails to Trails bicycle route. And he's often described as Mr. Wallace, the go-to source for Wallace history. Ladies and gentlemen, Richard Caron.
Well, I'm honored to be here, folks. I have bad eyesight, so I didn't write anything. I've just, ever since I heard that I was a recipient, or won the award, I should say, I have been mulling it over in my mind. And thank God this is going to be the end of it tonight, because it's been going on for quite a while. I want to tell you, when I first heard about this, being from, again, North Idaho, I thought, I'm going to give some people hell down there. I'm going to go down there. I'm going to talk about, how you hijacked the capital from Lewiston, and all kinds of stuff like that. But then I thought, okay, so I got to go out of Idaho, go through 2 states, come back into Idaho to get here from North Idaho, but I'm not going to talk about that. No, I'm going to keep my mouth shut, try to be kind of an honorable gentleman. And so the short of the story is I'm terribly honored. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say that it's a pleasure to have our governor's wife here. And I've got to tell her, I think her name is Teresa, that Bill Scudder, who won an award last year, Bill ran the mission oldest building in Idaho for years and years and years, and a good friend of mine. He said, Dick, when you get down there, you tell that Mrs. Little that I said hi and how much I enjoyed her company when I was down there receiving my award. So Bill Scudder says howdy. I'd like to thank the Board of Trustees and the board members of the Idaho State Historical Society for honoring me in such a way. I'm deeply moved. Also, the people, my friends, that nominated me and wrote letters in support. They're dear friends. We've all worked on numerous projects for years and years and years. But that would be Tom Harmon, Jim C., and one other that all of a sudden my mind escapes me. That's the trouble with this kind of thing. But Tom Harmon, who's a great local historian and getting better and better as he gets older. But so I thank them, and also as I look around, I think there'll be a few people that can remember Merle Wells. I think he deserves to be clapped. He was a true gentleman. And I met him in the mid-late 70s. And I don't have to tout Wallace and what we've done and what kind of a community we are. I'd like to think that everybody knows what it is. But Merle helped us get the entire downtown on the National Register. And with the help of H.F. Magnuson, myself a little, and Nancy Lee Hansen, and Canna Messes, and I could go on and on. They're all dead, and won't we all be? So, I want to thank and honor Merle for his help. It was greatly appreciated, and I believe I just read. He spent 30 years in the archives of the Idaho State Historical Society. That's quite an accomplishment, and he was quite a guy. Thank you so much.
That was a lot of fun. After 14 years of emceeing this event, I've decided to hand those duties off to Dick Karen. And now we go to District 2. I'd like to have Dr. Amy Canfield from Lewiston, who represents District 2 on the Idaho State Historical, the board, I should say, which represents Clearwater, Latah, Lewis, Idaho, and Nez Perce counties. Thank you. Our first winner of the Esto Perpetua Award from District 2 is Dr. Sidney Freeman, Jr. This is in the Distinguished Service category. Get walk-up music, too. Outstanding contributions to state history, especially through his leadership of the University of Idaho's Black History Research Lab, which was established in 2021. This interdisciplinary effort focuses on uncovering and sharing previously untold stories of Black excellence at the university and in the state. He produced an impressive array of publicly accessible exhibits, events, and publications. Dr. Freeman's mission has been to shed light on the numerous ways Black people have been integral to state and institutional history. Led by Dr. Freeman's strong vision, boundless energy, and contagious passion, this endeavor has successfully brought together a group of historians, archivists, student interns, and digital librarians. Student interns gained crucial experience in archival research, digitization, and curation. Additionally, through his work, Dr. Freeman has helped create new inclusive spaces for U of I students and ensured that Black Idahoans can see themselves in our shared history. Also, he is the first African-American man to earn the rank of full professor at the University of Idaho. So, Dr. Freeman is not only writing history, he is also making it. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Sidney Freeman, Jr. Congratulations, sir.
A wise person once openly queried, what would you be doing if you were living during the civil rights movement? I wake up every day asking myself, what am I doing during a time when the state of Florida is banning the teaching of Black history? I wake up asking, what am I doing during a time when a white student can brutally rape and sexually assault a Black special needs student at Dietrich High School in Dietrich, Idaho, and the Black student victim endure taunts at school from his teammates and football coaches who called him fried chicken, grape soda, the N-word, and many other slurs, and there is not a statewide outcry. I wake up asking, what am I doing during a time when 31 members of a white nationalist organization known as the Patriot Front are arrested near a pride event in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho? I hope that the work of the Black History Research Lab answers this question as it counters the pervasive anti-intellectualism and anti-Blackness that infects our society and seeks to diminish research such as mine and call it woke scholarship instead of the work that goes into it that empowers and liberates. I would like to thank the Idaho State Historical Society for this distinguished honor. It means the world that you would acknowledge the importance of the contributions that Blacks have made in this gem of a state. I would also like to dedicate this award to my father, Sidney Freeman Sr., who died in 2021 and was a racial justice advocate in his own right. I would like to thank my beautiful wife, Dr. Linda Freeman, for her love and support. I would also like to thank the University of Idaho's President, Scott Green, the university's library staff, the history department, our College of Education, Health, and Human Sciences, and my staff, including Mr. Brody Gasper and Reem Tickle, for their partnership and collaboration and support of the vision of the lab. And lastly, I would like to say thank you to all those, especially those at my table who have come to support me with this honor. And congratulations to all other honorees. Thank you.
Congratulations. Also from District 2. And I do want to mention that these are actually just kind of like crib notes of what the recipients, the award winners this year have accomplished. The highlights, if you will. It's the list and their accomplishments is so much longer than what I'm giving you tonight. You can learn more about them in the program and through their organizations as well. Our next winner of a 2023 Esto Perpetua Award is Gary Strong of Potlatch, nominated by Haley Noble. Gary grew up north of Potlatch, Idaho, on East Deep Creek, where his family homesteaded. He attended the University of Idaho and earned a Master of Library Science degree from the University of Michigan. For the next 40 years, Gary worked in libraries across the country. He has been a consultant and advisor to the Library of Congress and the International Federation of Library Association representative to the UN. Upon his retirement and returning to Potlatch, he organized the collections of the Potlatch Historical Society and served as its president, its vice president, and archivist. Board member and archivist for the Washington, Idaho, and Montana Railway Historic Preservation Group. He was also instrumental in the placement of the Mountain Home Grange on the National Register of Historic Places. Gary also works regularly with the Potlatch School District to incorporate history opportunities into the classrooms. Ladies and gentlemen, Gary Strong.
Thank you to the Historical Society, to the First Lady, and to each of you for being here. I am very humbled to be here and to be honored tonight. As a kid, I often rode with my father. We owned a sawmill, and he was chair of the school board. And we came from a family that homesteaded in North Idaho in the 1890s. And he would take us along, my older brother and I, and then later the twins and my little sister, in the car as he drove around the county. He was later the county assessor, so he had to drive around even more, and you had to stay just so much ahead of everyone. It was he that told the stories of who lived there and what happened there and who was that, what was that building, what was the thing that went on that he remembered and that I then remembered being, having sat at Sunday dinners in my grandparents' home on the floor so that I could eavesdrop on what the adults were hearing and saying. It was that inspired me then to think about a lifetime of stories. The stories that I would then gather, which I've been able to do somewhat with the historical societies and the archives, and how that could be passed on to future generations. If we do not collect and preserve what is in the past, what we're creating today, it will never be perpetual into the future.
And now we move to District 4. May I have Mary Ann Arnold join me here on the stage. She represents Valley, Boise, Ada, and Elmore counties in District 4.
The stairs.
My dear.
I have a bad knee. Oh, you're such a gentleman. Isn't it great?
Fake it till you make it. The first recipient of a 2023 Esto Perpetua Award from District 4 is John Bertram of Boise in the Distinguished Service category, nominated by David Leroy. He directed the Boise-based consulting firm Plan Makers from 1977 to 2017, offering city planning, historic preservation, and urban design studies. The list of projects he has worked on is extensive, so trust me, this is just a few of the highlights. Nominations for Capitol Boulevard Memorial Bridge National Register nomination, Oregon Short Line Railroad Depot nomination of historic places. Projects he's been involved in: Bonneville Point, Oregon Trail interpretive panels, Land of Yankee Fork State Park interpretive exhibit themes and storylines, and the Lava Hot Springs Cultural Arts Center. Right?
Right.
Thank you. I try to convince my colleagues that it is Lava Hot Springs, and they say, no, it's lava. And I'm like, I worked there for a while, I know. John also has put together master plans and guides, including Rock Creek Station and Sticker Home Site, Historic Site Master Plan, the Boise Cultural District Master Plan, Idaho City Historic District Plan and Design Guide, and the Idaho Black History Museum Development Plan, among others. Oh, and then there's also the Idaho's commemoration of the Lewis and Clark Expedition Bicentennial. And as president of Preservation Idaho, oversaw the restoration of the 1864 Surgeon's Quarters at the Boise VA Medical Center. Ladies and gentlemen, John Bertram.
It's an honor to be selected for the Esto Perpetua Award by the Idaho State Historical Society. I want to thank David Leroy for nominating me. I have a passion for history. I got involved in the mid-'70s combating the unfortunate urban renewal demolition of downtown Boise. My heroes were Arthur Hart, who was salvaging building pieces, especially artifacts from Chinatown, and architect Charles Hummel. Most every project I got involved with started with research at the Idaho State Archives. One of my favorite memories was in 1972, when Robert Redford premiered Jeremiah Johnson at the Egyptian Theater. Alan Minskoff and I created a one-page preservation handout, and our girlfriends in long dresses passed them out to everyone. It had an impact on saving the Egyptian. In 1976, the U.S. bicentennial was a turning point. I was appointed to a new preservation, Boise City Historic Preservation Commission by Mayor Dick Erdley. With the help of consultant Charles Hummel, we established 3 historic districts: Old Boise, 8th Street Warehouse, and Hyde Park. They helped protect those areas. I later served 2 separate terms as president of Preservation Idaho, and then I did a 9-year as an advisor to the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Key preservations at the time were Romaine Hahn, who helped save the Bishop's House, moving it to the old pen. Adelia Simplot purchased the Jacobs Ubaraga building, starting the Bass block. Julie Stromberg went to court to save the 6-story Eastman building and won, only to lose the building a few months later to an arson, which we never did get an answer of what happened there. Unfortunate loss in our urban renewal area. For me, I take great pride in enhancing Capitol Boulevard. I created the Capitol Boulevard plan for the city of Boise in 1989. And my most, I think, thing that I've enjoyed the most was my opportunity to work on the Boise Depot with a wonderful group of consultants. And I think you've all seen it shine today. It was in trouble back in those days. It's now a monument to our future and to Boise. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Our next winner from District 4 is John Heiler of Mountain Home. John John is a fixture of the Mountain Home business community since 1961, appointed to the Centennial Committee by then Governor Cecil Andrus. One of the first people appointed to the Idaho Heritage Trust and spent more than 3 decades as an active member of IHT's board of directors. John was instrumental in securing funding for the purchase of the Glad Creek campsite, the last undeveloped campsite along the Lewis and Clark Trail between Great Falls, Montana and Astoria, Oregon. Following the purchase from Plum Creek Timber Company, the pristine campsite was gifted to the state of Idaho to ensure its preservation for generations to come. John is a vocal advocate for the preservation, interpretation, and restoration of the Minidoka concentration camp. He routinely shares historic images from his personal collection, adding thoughtful observations and context to everything from hand-colored Christmas cards from the late 1800s, that is, to historic photos of Glens Ferry and the surrounding area. He is truly an exemplary ambassador for historic and heritage preservation in Idaho. Ladies and gentlemen, John Heiler.
Thanks to the Historical Society for this honor, and thanks to those people and my sister. Those are the results. That's the result of Uncle Abe coming up the Oregon Trail in 1863 to Boise. We're all honored by being longtime members of Idaho. I wrote some things down that I wanted to talk about and thank the trust and Catherine, our director there, and the trust members that are here for all that you've done in every part of the state of Idaho. I think we have like now more than 300 projects that we've done in the state. It's been good work. We've enjoyed it. The people that are on the trust with me are by and large the finest people I've ever known in my life, except for Mary Lee. My Wyoming cowgirl. And I would like to indulge you here just for 1 minute because I have a problem that needs to be solved. About 45 minutes from here, there's a rock building sitting in a barbed wire fenced field with a no trespassing sign on it that is the 1865 quarter store at Mayfield. That building, that rock building, still has the dirt in the ceiling for insulation. It is a treasure, it's an Idaho treasure, but we can't get at it. If you want to see what the trust does, drive down the Mayfield Road and go look at the Canyon Creek Stage Station, which was a burned up rock ruin, and now we've put it back together. It's the same building it was in the 1870s. I've probably written and published a couple or 300 articles about my family, about the West, about Idaho history. I grew up in a family that talked about the 1870s and 1880s like it was last week. I crawled under the pinochle table at the Bruno pastime so the cowboys, me and my cousins, so we could listen to the cowboys talking as they played pinochle. It's been a long time I've been at this, but it's been fun and still is. Thank you very much for all that you do. There's a lot of people in this room that do a lot of good work, and I'd like to thank you for that. Oh, one other thing. All you recipients, when Mrs. Falderall is over, come over to the table over here. I have a gift for each one of you. So just show up over there, and I'll ask Ben Boy to pass them out. Thanks, folks.
All right. Mr. Heiler just said going down the steps that he would have been just fine if he didn't have a snake bite on his left foot. True story. See what has to happen when you're tracking down Idaho history. We now move on to District 5. If I could have Trustee Paul Smith from Twin Falls come up to the stage, please. Mr. Smith represents Camas, Blaine, Lincoln, Gooding, Minidoka, Cassia, and Jerome counties. How are you today, sir? The next winner of a 2023 Esto Perpetua Award is Ronald L. James from Twin Falls, nominated by Shauna Robinson. Ronald is a native Idahoan, historian, and educator. He's organized numerous community education classes as well as field trips focusing on Magic Valley history, taking students on day trips to significant sites such as Milner Dam, Cauldron Lynn, and Rock Creek Station. His skillful writing and knowledge of local history have contributed to interpretive signage projects marking historic landmarks in and around Twin Falls. In the 1980s, Ronald became a member of the newly formed Twin Falls County Historic Preservation Commission and has remained an active member ever since. He was involved in the establishment of the Minidoka National Historic Site from 2001 to 2004 and served as one of the founding members of the Friends of Minidoka. Currently leading a multi-year certified local government undertaking for the Twin Falls County Historic Preservation Commission. That is, to create an historic district in the Snake River Canyon, documenting and updating 19th century Chinese and Depression-area placer mining sites that stretch between the Perrine and Hanson bridges in the Snake River Canyon. Ladies and gentlemen, Ronald James from Twin Falls.
Well, thank you. I want to thank the Idaho State Historical Society for this honor. I'm grateful to receive this prestigious Esto Perpetua Award, especially when I look at all the talented and dedicated individuals I'm in the room with. This is really humbling. Plus, it also makes one feel really great to be rewarded for all the hard work that we do, right? Anyway, I'm very grateful to everyone who has always been a part of my journey. First of all, to my family, my lovely wife, Lily, my daughter, Gingy, son-in-law, Josh. Thank you. I also want to thank my dear friend and colleague of, shall I say it, 40-plus years, Shauna Robinson, is here. So over the past 40 years, I've been very fortunate to get to work with an amazing array of friends, colleagues, mentors, and organizations dedicated to public education and cultural resource preservation. So again, I'll call out by name Shauna Robinson, Paul Smith, Preservation Twin Falls, the Twin Falls County Historic Preservation Commission, Idaho Heritage Trust. I want to thank them all for the help and encouragement that they're providing at this time on the current project, which is to establish a National Register Snake River Canyon Historic Mining District. Now, my particular focus has been on the historical archaeology of Chinese and Japanese immigrants, marginalized Asian migrant populations whose stories were nearly erased, yet whose experiences deepen our understanding of Idaho's place within the Pacific Rim. And it's my hope that my research and fieldwork has contributed to the overall goal of reclaiming the Chinese and Japanese migrants' central role in the development of our great state. In the Analects the philosopher Confucius stated really the overriding purpose of why we do history. In the Analects, Confucius wrote, Wengu Shixin, which in English translates to review the past and gain new insights into understanding the present. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you all so much for this honor. Thank you.
Now from District 6, Jim Johnston from Pocatello, trustee in that district, representing Power, Bannock, Caribou, Oneida, Franklin, and Bexar counties, is making his way to the stage. The next recipient of a 2023 Esto Perpetua Award is Drusilla Gold from Fort Hall. This is a Distinguished Service Category Award nominated by Catherine Reedy. For 30-plus years, Drusilla has worked as a lecturer in Shoshone language instructor for the anthropology department at Idaho State University and helped to develop the Shoshone language curriculum at ISU. Helped develop the only Shoshone Associate of Arts degree in the world. Brought the Shoshone language to many of her own people, the general population of Idaho, linguists, and anthropologists from around the country. Drusilla worked on language and cultural preservation initiatives with many communities, multiple universities, and tribal organizations. Her work enhancing Shoshone language usage has included production of language materials, video, presentations, demonstrations, and speaking engagements. She worked on the Wick R. Miller Collection at the Center for American Indian Languages to preserve history that has been lost due to language and cultural change. And she exceeds in every criteria for this award in preserving and disseminating important features of Idaho's Native American culture and history. Ladies and gentlemen, Drusilla Gould.
I would like to first of all thank the Idaho State Historical Society for this grandiose award. We come here in a very humble way. The work that I can't say I've done, the work that we have done as a people of members of the Shoshone Bannock tribes, of working with our language, working with many different organizations, trying to, in our own way, bridge the gap between our world and the non-native world. It's been very interesting. My work has been very interesting. And I started in 1989 at the Idaho State University. Prior to that, I was with the tribes, worked in the alternative school for the Shoshone Bannock tribes, as well as the middle school, the elementary schools, and the Head Start programs. It's been a very good challenge for an individual to be able to come up with ways to interact with the young, very young people, in trying to help them to understand that we are different. We have our own language. We have our own way of seeing this world that is here. Language is very important to us. Language is a way that we live each day. We interact with family members. We interact with our colleagues. We interact with the community. We interact with each and every individual that we come in contact with. And it does not only stop there, we also interact with the natural world. We interact and we are able to communicate with the traditional foods, the natural medicines that grow right outside. Through these ways, through our language, we are taught as young people, we're able to speak to them. And when we harvest from the earth during certain times of the seasons, we are asked to always give a prayer of forgiveness for taking a life of a living plant so that we may nourish our bodies and the bodies of our family members and our community, if that's who we are harvesting food for. Our young men are also taught to say the prayer of forgiveness when they are on a hunt, when they take an animal's life. They ask for the power, the energy that that animal has to endure the heat, the cold, and the strength that they have. So these are some of the ways that language is very, very important to us. And I bring this to the university. I brought this along with my family, the teachings of my family, to Idaho State University. There I met people who I was to become long life friends with. I'd like to thank Dr. Chris Lothar at this time. Without Dr. Chris Lothar, there would be no written form of the Shoshone language. Him and I worked together endlessly because our language is not a written language. Something had to be done to develop it so we can put this before our young people so that they might have the resources to learn the language. There are a number of people that still speak the language. Those people I'm very grateful for today. There are many young people we are in the process of teaching language to. And those that are teachers and those that are sharing, we are very grateful to them as well. The department that I work with, Idaho State University Department of Anthropology, we started a language program. The language program is one of its kind in the state of Idaho and across the nation. It was not too much of a challenge because the language was there. And our teachings are always, we have our goals, we set our goals. And our grandmothers, they always say, reach back to your ancestors. Reach back, because that's where all the knowledge is. The knowledge keepers are those that are no longer with us, but they have passed these teachings on to future generations. This is your generation, your time to go out and provide and share the knowledge that they have left for you. So with the strength and the knowledge from the past, this is what we have. We have support. I have great support from my family. My parents, who are now both passed, my grandmothers, my gago, my maternal grandmother, very important in who I am today, who we are as a people, as a family. The support that they gave us throughout these years in providing teachings, not only language, but cultural ways, song, dance, ceremonies, all of the different instruments that were used in ceremonies. And I'm very, very grateful to them. I always thank them on a daily basis for being able to provide us with these teachings. I would also like to thank a lot of the younger people of our tribes. This is my daughter here. One of the ways that we teach comes from not only one generation, but many generations. What you see she's wearing today, the beadwork that she has, the floral beadwork. The floral beadwork belongs to my grandmother, my gago. The colors belong to my grandmother. She had everything about her that had this floral design. My mother also worked on pieces with the very same floral design. My late sister made this medallion based on my grandmother's designs. And then I came later, years later, and I made the moccasins that she wears today. So our teachings are we leave a little bit for the next generation. We begin something, leave something for the next generation, and it continues. We don't just teach something and just leave it right there. That's one of the things that we do. I would like to congratulate all of the awardees tonight. This is something that is very special, and I'm going to remember this for the rest of my life. Thank you very much.
Also from District 6 this evening, Dr. Gloria Jean Thomas from Malad City, nominated by Joan Hawkins. Dr. Thomas is the board chairperson for the Oneida County Pioneer Museum. She worked with local LDS and Presbyterian ministries to champion preservation initiatives for two historical buildings, the Malad 2nd Ward Tabernacle and the United Presbyterian Church, both listed now on the National Register of Historic Places. She's a community activist in the preservation of Oneida County's Co-op Block and J.N. Ireland Bank Building, another local building on the National Register of Historic Places. In the past year, Jean has worked with the national suffrage movement and a state delegation to spotlight two Oneida County historical figures, Representative Joseph Morgan and his daughter Hattie Morgan. These two individuals were influential players in Idaho's women's suffrage movement in the 1870s through the 1890s. Through her work at the Oneida County Pioneer Museum, she has secured some memorial markers that will be erected in town to recognize these two important figures. And she is the primary individual promoting the community's annual Welsh Festival. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Gloria Jean Thomas.
I want to thank the Idaho State Historical Society for this great honor. There's been a couple of other people from Malad get this, and I was able to be here when they received their awards, and I appreciate being another one from Malad. I want to thank Joan Hawkins, our mayor from Malad, who collaborated with my sister for putting in this surprise nomination. I wouldn't be here without all of the support I have in Malad for all of the projects. Namely, every member of the Oneida Pioneer Museum Board is in charge of some specific project at the museum, including remodeling, preserving our 110-year-old building. The historic markers, which are now around town, mark 20 places just in downtown Malad that are of historic importance. We have 25 others identified. By the time we finish, we'll probably have over 100 markers in Oneida County. The Malad Valley Welsh Festival is in its 17th year. The pioneers that settled Malad were primarily from Wales. The legend is that they arrived and they thought the hills and the mountains looked like Wales, which means they had to have arrived in the spring. There's no other time. But the Malad Valley Welsh Festival is held the end of June. You're all invited to come. But there are over 200 volunteers in Malad who work on the festival. The 13 chairs over all of the different events and activities then involve others like the Boy Scout Troop 1776, the Malad High School FCCLA, the Malad Middle School Math Counts, the Oneida County Quilters, the Malad Elementary School After School program. All of them are involved in the Welsh Festival. We want to promote and preserve that Welsh history and culture that has meant so much to Malad in the past. Again, I thank you for this honor, and I thank all of you and congratulate all of the awardees. Thank you.
Jim gave me pamphlets for anyone who wants to go to the Welsh Festival this year. We've got information. So they are promoting history hard at the Esto Perpetua Awards this year. I'll leave these right here for now. And now we move to the final district, but certainly last but not least, right? District 7, I'd like to call up Dr. Cheryl O'Brien from Idaho Falls as a trustee. Thank you, Dr. O'Brien. This district oversees Lemhi, Custer, Clark, Jefferson, Butte, Bingham, Madison, Teton, Bonneville, and Fremont counties. So obviously it has the smallest land area in the state that has to be covered. The first recipient from District 7 of a 2023 Esto Perpetua Award is Robert Allen of Terraton, nominated by Trish Peterson. Rob's years of dedication include serving the Mud Lake Historical Society and Museum as president. When youth groups tour the Mud Lake Museum, Rob takes them to forgotten places by teaching them about their rich cultural heritage. Rob has brought the town of Camas back to life through photos and stories in a new exhibit in the Mud Lake Museum. He also spearheaded the rebuilding of a dilapidated historical sign that shares the history of Old Town Camas. It's under construction, and an unveiling is set for this summer. Correct? Yes, it's on 2 weeks. It's on schedule. After many years of research, he helped complete the first Mud Lake Memories book, and right now, he is the main researcher and contributor to the new Mud Lake Memories Volume 2. Rob is also the sexton of the local West Jefferson Cemetery, and with research, he found several unmarked and unknown graves. He then led a community project to buy and place headstones on those unmarked graves. Thanks to Robert, generations will be able to learn the stories and history that make his community and all of Idaho so great. Ladies and gentlemen, Robert Allen.
Would like to thank the Idaho State Historical Society. What an honor. I don't deserve to be here after hearing the stories of all the other honorees. Whatever I've done it doesn't count compared to all of you folks, all the wonderful things you folks have done. When I have time, I try not to ever miss episodes on public TV of Idaho Experience and Outdoor Idaho. And I don't say that just because Mr. Reichert is here. But I love those programs. A couple years ago, or recently, whenever it was, there was an episode, it was entitled Nothing But the Truth, and former state representative Max Black was interviewed. He had been researching the Diamond Field Jack story. And he made a comment, he said, "A story will seek a writer. If you are found worthy, your responsibility is to tell that story." And then Representative Black said that he had been obsessed with the Diamond Field Jack story. Oh my gosh, can I relate to that? I've had several stories that have totally consumed me. Camas is one. Researching those graves is another. Those graves are, it's not only that, it's been said that you die twice. The first time when the spirit leaves the body, and the second time, the last time somebody speaks your name. And I for damn sure didn't want the people that are buried in my cemetery to be forgotten. So that's why we... Definitely a labor of love. I'm blessed at the cemetery to have a helper, partner, good friend who feels the same way and who will take over the reins when I'm no longer able to. And if I keep crippling around, that might be sooner than later. But anyhow, and to that bunch down there on that in that table, sitting at that table, damn you guys. I have stressed over this night and lost sleep. Trish Peterson, Monica Shook, Paula Ward, and Debbie Cottle, who couldn't be here tonight. Thank you. Thank you.
The next recipient of a 2023 Esto Perpetua Award from District 7 is someone we all on the Historical Society know very well. It's Dr. Hope Benedict from Salmon, nominated by Dr. Earl Bennett. First of all, Hope just completed a 12-year term as an Idaho State Historical Society board trustee representing District 7. So just for that alone, thank you, Doctor. She has served on the Governor's Lewis and Clark Trail Committee for nearly 10 years. For 23 years and counting, she has been Lemhi County Historical Society President and Volunteer Director. She serves on the Idaho Heritage Trust Board, Foundation for Idaho History, and on the Advisory Council for the Sacagawea Interpretive Cultural and Educational Center. As president of the Lemhi County Historical Society and Museum, Hope assisted in establishing a fundraising campaign to buy the former Salmon Public Library to create a research center and evolving exhibition space. She helped establish the Lemhi County Historic Preservation Committee, raising money to contribute to the preservation and stabilization of the Lemhi Agency buildings, a Salmon City footbridge built by the WPA, and the Gilmore Mercantile Building. She taught U.S. history, history of the American West, history of women in the American Northwest, and history of Idaho at Boise State University, Idaho State University, and Skidmore College. And in 2020, she was elected Idaho Woman of the Year. The awards program recognizes women who are shaping Idaho's economic and community well-being through their outstanding leadership, mentoring efforts, and community involvement. Hope Benedict is all of that and a lot more. Ladies and gentlemen, Hope Benedict. Now you have to talk.
Wow, thank you for those kind words. And I have to say that I certainly sympathize with Mr. Allen. I was writing speeches at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you will be really glad that I disregarded all of those. One started out with my 1950 Willys Jeep, so you can see where that would go. During my 12 years as a trustee for the Idaho State Historical Society, each year at this time, I marveled at the dedication of the awardees and their contributions to local, regional, and state history. Consequently, I find it an incredible honor to have been selected as one of this year's recipients of the Esto Perpetua Award. It is certainly not something I would have received without a host of donors and volunteers in Lemhi County, several of whom are actually here this evening. John Logan, and the Gutzmans, and my mother who came, and she has helped me in a multitude of ways. She is 97. Over the years, I have had the opportunity to work with several of this year's Esto Perpetuants. That's a new word, I think. Drusilla Gould, Robert Allen, John Heiler, and although briefly and a very long time ago, John Bertram. Their knowledge and willingness to collaborate on historical projects, combined with their integrity and respect for history, reinforced my dedication to making history accessible to a wider audience. And making Idaho history accessible, relevant, and central is our responsibility as historians. But it is not something that we could do with any ease were it not for the Idaho State Historical Society and other organizations whose mission it is to bring cultural programming and historical preservation to communities across the state, in particular the Idaho Humanities Council and the Idaho Heritage Trust. These three have enabled so much of what we have been able to do and accomplish in Idaho museums, interpretive centers, historic districts, libraries, and schools. I want to thank Governor and First Lady Brad and Teresa Little for their support of Idaho's history. And thank you to Dr. Earl Bennett, the Idaho State Historical Society Board of Trustees, Executive Director Janet Gallimore, my dear friend, the incredible staff of the State Historical Society, and the Foundation for Idaho History. And congratulations to all of the other recipients. Thank you.
Some history was just made. We created a new, or Hope created a new word. Write that one down. Esto Perpetuans, created June 5th, 2023. Our next recipient is Dr. Mary Thompson of Blackfoot. In 2018, Dr. Thompson retired as Senior Collections Manager at the Idaho Museum of Natural History. Since 2018, she has served as the affiliate curator, Idaho Museum of Natural History, and continues to contribute to Idaho's natural history preservation and knowledge base. I think what I'm saying is she never actually retired other than maybe officially or something. Well, she brought in hundreds of thousands of dollars in grant funds to create a state-of-the-art storage system to help house and preserve all of the earth sciences collections. Mary's fieldwork included raising the Tolo Lake mammoth. This is an extensive list of honors, publications, awards, and grants, including from the Institute for Museum and Library Services and the National Science Foundation. Dr. Thompson has also exhibited not only exemplary efforts in the preservation of natural history specimens, but is dedicated to the related and all-important research that makes them important and accessible. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Mary Thompson.
When I received the phone call, I was just overwhelmed. And now, after hearing everything tonight, I'm in awe. What a wonderful group of people who have done so much important work in this state. In 1990, I left my home in Cincinnati, Ohio, and moved out here. My intention was not to stay here, was to do my master's and go elsewhere. I went home at Christmas, and my mom took one look at me, and she said, "You're an Idahoan now." So here I am. It's been an incredible journey. This is an incredible honor. I'd like to thank the Idaho State Historical Society for this honor. I'd like to thank my friend, my colleague, Lynn Murdoch, for surprising me with this nomination. She called one day and asked to borrow my Vita because she was working on hers. Yeah, she surprised me all right. I'd like to thank my mentors, Dr. Gregory McDonald and the late Dr. William Ackerston, who are the reason that I am in Idaho and stayed in Idaho. Dr. Alan McCready, who was the fossil preparator at the museum when I came there and really taught me everything I know about preparing fossils. I'd like to thank the love of my life, my husband, Craig Gates. He was unable to attend tonight, but I know he's at home thinking about this. I'd like to thank my parents, my father, who instilled in me the love of the outdoors, and my mother, who encouraged me to be a lifelong learner and also to pick a career that I would be passionate about. And I guarantee you, I am passionate about my career and passionate about the fossil history, millions of years of Idaho history. Thank you.
And at this time, it is a great pleasure of mine to introduce one of my favorite people in the world, one of the nicest people I've ever met, a woman who is truly dedicated to Idaho and Idaho history, and is here every year supporting the recipients of the Esto Perpetua Award and the Idaho State Historical Society. Again, great pleasure to introduce to you the First Lady of the great state of Idaho, Teresa Little.
Boy, has it ever been a joy for me to be in your company this evening. I am inspired by the good being added to our world. Honorees, thank you for accepting the recognition. You have forged paths that will inspire and motivate others. Nominators, thank you for taking the time to put forth in writing your admiration and support for these recipients. Friends and family, your appreciation and love is certainly the wind beneath their wings. It has been a lovely evening. Much gratitude to Doug Petcash, our Idaho State Historical Society's trustees, led by Bill Butici, our Foundation for Idaho History Board of Directors, headed by the incredible Marianne Arnold, and our Idaho State Historical Society staff, headed by the amazing Janet Gallimore. Thank you, and safe travels home to everyone.
And that is our program for the evening. On behalf of KTVB, I would also like to extend our congratulations to all of the winners of the 2023 Esto Perpetua, the Doug Petcash Should Host It Every Year award. Have a great night, everybody, and please, please accept my gratitude for all the work you do in the field and in the libraries and in the archives and preserving and promoting history and passing it on to the next generation. Thank you and congratulations. Have a great evening.